I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're doing all right. Um,
How are you?
on, Go ahead.
I said, how are you? How are you dealing with coronavirus right now?
No, we're fine. Knock on wood. No fevers or anything.
Yeah,
My wife's got a cough. And she's a smoker, but I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
We're okay. We slowly see things changing in town with these plastic barriers up at the various counters, 7-Eleven, now the post office.
oh yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
just little like shower curtains, things like that.
Yeah. So yeah. So for anyone listening to this podcast, you are Ken Mason. You are on my podcast for episode 11. You are the student of Bob Truax, who is the inventor of the Sea Dragon. Friends with Bob Lazar, and I believe you said you know Tom Mueller of SpaceX.
Yeah, and we were colleagues and did some hot firings for him when he was with TRW out at our facility at New Mexico Tech, the Energetic Material Research Test Center. You'll see it sometimes on the Mythbusters when they have that rocket sled, like cutting a car in half. Well, that facility, that's where I built up a liquid rocket test facility for 200,000 pounds thrust, and we tested a 40,000 pound engine for TRW. Tom Miller was the lead engineer, and Maurice O'Brien was the technical rep. He's the guy who's got his fingerprints are on the moon. He helped work on the lunar descent engine back in the 60s, so he's been around the block once or twice.
Holy cow!
So these are all the people I've been privileged to work with.
That's crazy. He's okay. So yeah. So again, for anyone listening, whoops. Sorry. Oh, 1 second. I stopped recording, but I think I stopped recording. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So for anyone listening, yeah. Um, so I had on a friend a couple weeks ago who is designing a CubeSat, and he went to the University of Georgia and is now at Georgia Tech, I believe, and he worked for JPL, or he was an intern there, and he wanted to make a cube. For anyone that doesn't know, a CubeSat is a tiny little satellite, often 10 centimeters by 10 to 20 centimeters, very tiny, very economical. And he wanted to make MemeSat, and it was just going to beam back memes, just stupid memes, but he was going to use it for educational purposes because he speaks at elementary schools and stuff. And over the course of the conversation, we got talking about just stupid funny satellites, and we got on the topic of Voyager. And Voyager, launched in 1972, utilized some planetary slingshots where you come close around a planet and use its gravity to slingshot you. I don't know enough about orbital mechanics to explain it more than that, but with Voyager, we did that a couple times. It took its pictures, it went through the solar system, and now it's off, I believe, at the edge of the solar system. And it's going at about 38,000 miles an hour. I believe in the 80s, we made a satellite called Helios 2. I could have the date wrong, but it flew towards the sun and got up to 150,000 miles an hour. And I believe in the 2010s, the Parker Solar Probe was launched, and it got up to 450,000 miles an hour. And we began talking about how fast we could get these things going. But the thing is no satellite has ever been launched with the sole purpose of speed. They often, either they're taxpayer funded and thus have a mission, or they are privately funded and thus have a mission. Some of them speed is utilized, but speed is not the sole purpose. You often have to, or not often, you always have to go to a specific direction and literal space. So we began talking about how fast could you get a satellite if the only purpose was speed. It does not matter where it goes. It does not matter how long the slingshots take. It doesn't matter how long the acceleration takes. If the sole purpose was speed, you would strip off all instrumentation, all heavy, expensive instrumentation, and just have a radio beacon on it. And we began talking about how would we figure this out, we would need a rocket scientist. And then it dawned on me one day while I was meditating, I was like, oh, holy shit, I forgot. My friend Ken is a rocket scientist. So that long introduction, I emailed you, Ken, and you emailed me back enthusiastically. And that is the purpose of this podcast. So what are your thoughts on the fastest a spacecraft could get using current technology? Not science fiction, not fusion, not Project Orion. That's because we couldn't get our hands on nuclear bombs, obviously. How do you think we would get a satellite going as fast as possible?
Well, first I want to make a correction. I'm not a quote-unquote rocket scientist. I'm really a rocket engineer designing practical systems. My motto is from concept to combustion. You can write on the back of a napkin at a Denny's and say, well, I want to do this. And then I can take that idea and deliver it to the test stand and hot fire it. The true rocket scientists that can hit a bullet with a bullet, like Pluto 10 years later, that's a true rocket scientist. To answer your question, some of the materials that we exchanged last week actually answered your question quite eloquently. To go back to your, or in the general statement about slingshotting, it's very interesting. It's kind of a misnomer. You're not really accelerating anything faster relative to the object you're slingshotting around. Like when you throw a rock up, it comes back down exactly at the same speed as it went up. Same thing with an object. If you slingshot around the Earth or Jupiter or whatever, it'll leave that object at the same speed. What it does do, though, is it leaves with a higher velocity relative to the sun, as long as you're not using the sun as the slingshot body.
Okay.
So you can't use the sun to leave the solar system by slingshot effect. You can use the planets to leave the solar system, but you can't use the sun to leave the solar system because relative to the sun, you will gain no net velocity. Now, the materials we exchanged, you're talking about like ion drive and using, tons of xenon propellant. Yeah, you're getting delta V's into the hundreds of thousands of feet per second. But compared to light, you're still down below 1%, like below 0.1%. What would be the point in making something go really, really fast? You're not going to get to the nearest star in our children's lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be still thousands of years.
Yeah.
We fundamentally have to have a breakthrough in propulsion technology. That there's just no way around it. Even getting around the solar system, we need to, if we're going to do it in a reasonable lifetime, and also avoid or minimize radiation exposure from cosmic rays and other hazards. So I don't see any way around it. We just got to get propulsion technology advanced. Ion is pretty nice, but we have to come up with a way of generating electricity to power these ion grids. I'd like to go fast too, as much as anyone else, but I'm faced with the reality of physics.
Yeah.
I don't see how we're going to do that.
Yeah, so that was something that, people commented on when we brought it up was, well, it would still take you tens of thousands of years to get to Alpha Centauri. And we took that into account, and that again comes back to we're not trying to go to Alpha Centauri. We're not trying to go anywhere. We're not trying to go anywhere. It's just speed.
Yeah, if you're going to go and begin book the world's records as the fastest object, then that would be an expensive proposition.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. They'd probably require governments to do it, or a million or billionaire, just to get in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
But it would cost a lot of money to. Basically, you'd have to use an ion engine to, thrust for days or weeks, maybe even months. Using lasers and solar sails. Maybe now you're talking about a 1 gram spacecraft, and that could get up to a substantial fraction of the speed of light, like maybe 10%. But still, you're talking about large infusions of cash to do it.
Yeah. Again, there's no, the quick criticism to this idea is, all the problems with it. And again, I completely acknowledge that this thing, it's a thought experiment to how fast could you go. If you're trying to look into it for reason or for scientific farming of novel data, then don't look here, because it's not going to be found here. This is just how fast could it go with, let's say, $1 billion US. How fast could it go? And it would be, there would be no other purpose than to put a radio beacon on it. So I looked up the current, bleeding edge xenon ion thrusters being developed by NASA. And they have one that can fire for 48,000 hours. Mind you, a year is about 8,500 hours. So, what's that? We're looking at 5-6 years of firing. And the only reason...
I think it's 32 million hours. I'm sorry, not seconds. You said
hours. Yeah, 48,000 hours. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the ISP would be. And the only reason it dies out is because the grid, the actual grid it uses. Again, going over, speaking out of turn, because I'm not smart enough to know what this is, but I guess the grid, the physical grid that is used to eject the ions, I believe, or it's used to accelerate the ions, that actually starts to degrade. So we thought about, well, what if you made a staged rocket, but what if you made a staged ion thruster? You had one fire for 48,000 hours, discarded it, and began a second one, and discarded it, and then fired a third. So you could actually end up firing for 144,000 hours. How fast do you think that would be possible if the entire...
Well, this goes back to my pet peeve about the cancellation of the Saturn V. If we had a Saturn V booster just to get one of these devices up, not only into orbit, but into escape velocity, you can get one heck of a kick, initial boost. And then you can have a real massive xenon load on an ion or staged ion engine. Just imagine what you can do with that.
Yeah,
or solid boosters or big or liquid boosters on a Saturn. I mean, you can go crazy with existing technology. It's 1960s technology.
Yeah.
Every time I hear about slingshotting a spacecraft to get to the outer planets, I just continue to cringe, thinking if we just had a Saturn, we could have done a direct descent right to Pluto or Venus or Saturn, you name it. We could just aim it and shoot it there and get it there, and not worry about years of gravity assist, transits. It's just frustrating when I hear those things. But it's the real world, and we don't have Saturn V's, so we use gravity assists. I.e. the slingshot effect.
So again, I don't know anything about this field. So even just talking to you now, I'm learning. So if you had something as powerful as a Saturn V, you could just completely sidestep the gravitational assists. You would just straight shot into deep space.
If you were doing some of these missions to the outer planets, yes, like Pluto.
Okay.
And they didn't have the Delta V in the current vehicles. I mean, the largest rocket at the time was, I think, a Titan 3 or Titan 34D. But Saturns, they just could have boosted these things directly, or maybe just had one gravity assist if you wanted to get there a little quicker with just a single gravity boost, not multiple ones. I think they had to visit the Earth twice, and I mean the amount of time it takes to do these loops around the inner planets to get the Delta V relative to the Sun. I emphasize relative to the Sun, which is what counts when you're getting to the outer planets. That's what you could do.
Okay.
But Musk's doing a good job of catching up to technology we once had. And he'll surpass it with his new Mars vehicle. So we'll have that ability pretty soon, which is nice, as long as he stays in the business. And on that note, something I did want to mention that it concerned me greatly was an article he wrote just about 2 or 3 weeks ago about him not being alive before the first man walks on the Mars. What is that about?
I didn't hear that.
What? I kept the article just because I had to share it with my colleagues because I couldn't believe. No, he said that, but I couldn't believe nobody's been talking about it. So maybe someone should do some fact checking beyond what I can do and see, what's going on with that. He said he's 50 or something like that now, and he said he would not be alive when the first man steps on Mars unless there's a significant acceleration of technologies. I can send that to you if you're interested.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. Business Insider, March 9th, 2020. Elon Musk says he's definitely going to be dead before humans ever reach Mars unless the pace of innovation picks up. Holy shit.
Yeah, there it is.
No.
What's he talking about? He's only 50. He's not like he's 90.
Yeah.
I mean, he said we're getting there in 4 years. What is going on with that picture?
Yeah, what happened?
I'd love for your colleagues to chime in on this.
Yeah, I will. That's so depressing. I thought he wanted to be there by like 2024.
I'm worried. Yeah, exactly. And I'm worried he's just going to throw in the towel and just stop doing everything. And just because he goes into a deep depression.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can jumpstart this with so the hypothetical satellite we've been talking about, we're going to name it Sonic. We don't know what it stands for yet, but we're going to name it Sonic. Maybe we can jumpstart Musk, get him excited with Sonic. So what if you constructed a Sea Dragon and the payload was just, you'd have the radio beacon the size of a CubeSat, and that would sit on top of a 3-stage xenon ion thruster, and you put that on the Sea Dragon. If you could construct a Sea Dragon, or even let's just say a Falcon Heavy, do you think that would be possible to reach some ludicrous speeds?
Well, that just dovetails from my statement about the Saturn V. Of course, Sea Dragon is an order of magnitude larger vehicle, 80 million pounds versus 7.5 million pounds. Exactly, more is better with rockets. Bigger is better. Absolutely. You could use a Saturn V as an upper stage or at least a second stage for a Sea Dragon.
Jesus.
It used a large hydrogen engine on its second stage with 4 vernier engines. But, just more Delta V is the way it works. I'd be, happy to see Sea Dragon picked up by someone. I think Musk actually looked at Sea Dragon, but people are pretty much land dwellers, and they don't like getting their hardware wet, especially with seawater. And I'm part of that. I don't really like being in the ocean. I like watching it, and all that. Hardware doesn't like getting wet, but the Navy's been doing it forever, and they build large ships in shipyards in seawater. They know how to mitigate corrosion problems, and this has all been studied with the Sea Dragon report. So I'm all for someone picking up on that and building Sea Dragon class vehicle, and if we want to use it to get somewhere in or outside the solar system faster, that's fine by me.
Well, that's what we need to do, Ken. We need to start designing a Sea Dragon. We need to start designing and we'd put this thing together to I think it could be done. I know like eyes roll when I say it, but like I'm not proposing using any, distant theoretical fusion engine or even Project Orion or Project Daedalus. Like I'm not talking about any of that. Like I want to use existing technology, tried and true, and just see this happen, because this is my logic, and it's admittedly simplistic, but the way I look at it as is the best inventions or the best discoveries always occur by accident, right? I mean, we set out to invent specific things, and those can be fantastic things, but often the biggest and most paradigm shifting discoveries occur by accident. And so while thinking of this sonic satellite, I thought, well, how would we make that accident to discover something novel? Well, we're on Earth. You can only make so many accidents before it's quote unquote it has been done before, whatever it may be, discovering the double helix, discovering whatever. So the only way to make a huge novel discovery would be to go somewhere that no man has gone before, or go a speed no one has gone before. Who knows what's lying out there at a specific speed? Like, who knows if there's not an entirely new dimension of something that we don't know just because we haven't been there. And right now we're convinced that we know it happens at a certain speed, just as we used to be convinced that you can't sail too far into the horizon or you'll fall off the edge of the earth. So I think if you were to launch this, this theoretical satellite and get to just a blistering speed, just really get some zip on it, who's to say that, you could put a couple instruments on it, nothing fancy, nothing heavy, but who's to say that you wouldn't discover an entirely new, who knows? It's, you get going at, if we could get going at, I don't know, like 1,000, 2,000 kilometers a second, who's to say that we wouldn't discover something and it would be a eureka moment? Now, I don't know what that would be, but I can't help but think we can't possibly know what's going on. Whenever we discover something huge like this, it's always, how did we not see that before? Maybe you just got to get something going at, just put some Tabasco on it and really just get this thing zipping through the solar system. Who's to say that there's not some novel discovery? I don't know what that discovery would be, but what are your thoughts on that? Or am I an idiot?
Well, we accelerate matter to near the speed of light in particle accelerators, so
Sure.
It can go that fast, and it gets from point A to point B. What that particle experiences, it's inanimate. We can't ask it. If something weird happened in its transit, but it gets there in the right amount of time. Complex life forms at those speeds, who knows?
Yeah.
Then you were talking about Sea Dragon with 20 stages of conventional engines, or a couple of top stages of ion. I don't know. When it comes to science fiction, which ultimately becomes science fact, only know when we get there. I have no real speculation about that other than what Einstein says about time dilation, and that we do know things slow down. Even the astronauts were a little bit younger when they came back. So we can prove that. They've proved it with atomic clocks. As far as we know, only time gets affected, not matter, at least not permanently, only during its transit at velocity.
Yeah.
It's going to cost money, as we mentioned, before we can experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, well, again, my idea would be to start crowdfunding this and just, really the long con. It would be like, hey, let's set a launch date for 2030 or 2035. It would be no rush to get there. And it would just be, hey, if you're interested in this idea, let's make this happen. Who knows? Maybe you could put some instrumentation on it. Maybe it doesn't just need to be a radio beacon. Maybe you could put some bacteria cultures on it, or if you could fit it into a CubeSat. So if we could get some nano experiments on something that wouldn't add a lot of weight. I know obviously particle accelerators, we can get stuff going at a blistering speed, but again, that's, like you said, inanimate. We can't ask it. We're not looking at it from the point of view of it. We're observing it as opposed to being on, it's like observing Voyager versus being on Voyager. So I think, who knows, you could have different spectrometers on there. You could, again, I don't know what it would be, but it would almost be like, we're, when the explorers would find a new island, you get out and you immediately just start taking samples. You're picking up vials of sand. You're, taking pictures or whatever the equipment, drawings of shells. You're, picking leaves. You're finding the natives. You're looking at the rock sample. You're looking at the geological history. You're really just going in there, and it's almost like just grab everything and we can analyze it. But you're just grabbing everything, samples of the air, your temperature, just everything. You're just picking up and we can examine it. So you would send this spacecraft out, and it would just be, it would just, again, it would all have to be extremely lightweight and tiny, but it would just be bristling with I don't know, different lasers, different lenses, and it would just be like, let's go out and just pick up everything. We don't know what we're going to pick up, but we're going out to, let's try to pick up something, whatever it may be. And if you could get this thing accelerating for, what if you could get this going? What if you could have a 3-stage ion thruster rocket? What if you could constantly accelerate for 144,000 hours? And you get that thing going on a Sea Dragon with a Saturn V second stage. Like, who knows what will happen? I just, I can't say what I think will happen because I don't know what will happen. But I just can't help but think that there has to be a novel discovery to be found, because it seems like that's how every major discovery is always found. It's stuff you could never predict, but you find it because you stumble somewhere where no one has stumbled before. Maybe bacteria goes under a different change. Maybe atomic clocks are affected. I don't know what it would be, but I think if you got this thing going at like 2,000 kilometers a second, I just can't help but think that there would be something that we would go, oh, holy shit, that breaks our model of X, Y, and Z. I don't know if that makes sense, or if it's just, if you think it's crazy, or.
Well, I've never heard of that. I kind of personally doubt there's any fundamental change in matter.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we get matter up to near the speed of light, and it leaves and gets there as it's supposed to. But as far as big rockets, the most practical solution is to talk Musk into getting one of his Mars rockets fitted with multiple stages, and just if he gets excited about something, he'll do it.
Yeah.
And just if nothing else, just make something go faster than anything.
Yeah.
And they've ever gone. And his vehicle is even bigger than Saturn, so not as big as Sea Dragon, but it's a good intermediate and a good place to start and do it.
Yeah, I don't know how I would contact him, but maybe that's what needs to be done. We gotta, because Elon's an eccentric guy. I don't know why I said Elon, like I know him. Mr. Musk is an eccentric man. He fired the Tesla Roadster into space, right? The barges are named things like, "Of course I still love you." Like, the guy's got a sense of humor. Maybe if we can just get him excited about something, like, hey, let's just send this thing zipping through space. I don't know. Yeah. So
he's the guy to talk to about what you're proposing.
Yeah.
He's the one that's most likely to make it happen, and that involving the gross national product of the country.
Yeah. So you mentioned using Saturn V as a second stage on a Sea Dragon. Would that be possible?
Well, I just tossing around thoughts, but Sea Dragon had a second stage. It was a orbital vehicle. It would orbit 1,000 tons to low Earth orbit. You can put whatever stages you want on it to escape and just keep going until you're maxed out on Delta V. but the upper stages could be ion drives. It's the only way you're going to get anywhere with the ISPs necessary to get high delta Vs. The nuclear is really a technology we exploited back in the 60s, NERVA, the Aerojet endeavor. We had operational nuclear rocket, thermal nuclear. ISP is about double that of LOX hydrogen. That's pretty good. I might have a stage with that in there. Like I say, you need to talk to a true, quote unquote, rocket scientist that knows that aspect better than I do, and just crunch numbers. The information that we exchanged a few weeks ago, there was some good food for thought there, and I would publish that. That's a good place to get some numbers to look at and ponder and add to that. So yeah, I think Musk is the one to get interested in this potential high delta V project.
So, Ken, if I put together like a presentation, do you think you could have any of your colleagues weigh in on it to give it some validity?
My colleagues, which I call my mentors, most of them have passed away. I'm not a spring chicken myself, so the people that I looked up to, they're gone now. So I don't think there's much I can do. I'd go to some of your younger friends that might know friends that could, I don't know.
Get it?
It's something that your listenership might be able to chime in with.
Yeah. Well, I think
if it's interesting, most will do it.
Yeah. I mean, I truly believe it could happen. If it could get along the right chain of people. I got to get it to someone at SpaceX. I think it could happen. Maybe the first step isn't getting it to SpaceX. Maybe the first step is just get it some traction on its own, and hopefully it travels along the grapevine naturally. I don't know. Would its top speed be, that's a stupid question. Well, that's really all the questions I got regarding this, Ken. Got anything else on your mind?
Those were pretty much the things we talked about. The thing about Musk and dying before we got to Mars, that was an extremely weird.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not in the general lexicon. Why isn't it being discussed? What does he mean? I heard the same thing. We're going to get there by 2024 in time for the next big eclipse on the U.S. mainland. So I don't know what's going on there, what he's thinking. It could be back to my theory the last time we talked was the psychological factor that putting someone spamming a can for 6 to 8 months with no hope of returning before then could be overwhelming. It could be you can't get someone there because the person will freak out.
Yeah.
And having an escape pod with 1 or 2 persons that could come back in an emergency might be what it takes. The old beer in the refrigerator for the alcoholic analogy. Maybe, I don't know. It could be a showstopper that no one's talking about because it is so fundamental and so unfixable.
Yeah.
Unless we have a breakthrough in propulsion.
And that
those are things that have been on my mind, and we did touch on.
Yeah, that's again, that's where Sonic Sat comes in. Maybe there could be an unexpected breakthrough in propulsion, but yeah. So, well, Ken, thank you. I'll upload this, and I'm gonna post that what Elon Musk said about not seeing men on Mars before he dies. I will I'll post that on Reddit and see if I can get some feedback, and I'll email you the links to that, and figure out what's going on. But I'm gonna start trying to put this satellite together, and I'll keep you updated as we do with our daily emails.
Yeah, let's get corroboration on that statement by Musk.
Yeah.
It could be a giant, a hoax or something.
Yeah.
But some on that scale, there should have been something to counter it.
Yeah. I mean, it might.
You can check on that.
Yeah. I mean, coronavirus might just be blotting it out of the news cycle. It's we are in a global pandemic. But you're right. I haven't seen it on any Reddit forums or really anything. So yeah. So Ken Mason, thank you very much, sir. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will email you after this.
Well, with God's blessings, we will be here to talk again.
Yes, sir.
And, on that note, I wish you his blessings, and you have a wonderful week.
You too, Ken. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Tom. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.